also to express my love for Harry and Meghan as they continue to build their lives overseas.
And these people who describe themselves as fans of the royal family or as monarchists or as royalists choose a day like today or a day like yesterday to abuse the man and woman that Charles himself, the King of England, King Charles, chose to describe his love for in the most clear and incontrovertible of terms. And that's part of the confusion I have about these people. How can you think that you're showing support for the monarchy by being vile about someone's son and daughter-in-law? People who he has expressed his love for in the most public way imaginable. What is it that you think you're doing when you condemn this couple? I'm saying you. I doubt you're going to ring me. You're more than welcome to, but we're probably going to do a they of it. Do they think that Charles is sitting there in Buckingham Palace or wherever he sits at the moment, lying about how much he loves his son and daughter-in-law and loving it when Doris Bunch-of-Numbers with a Union flag avatar on Twitter attacks his son, his beloved son and daughter-in-law? Is that what is the thought process that's going on here? Do these people think that they are because I can't think of anything that's less royalist. I mean, it's treasonous, if you really want to get medieval about it, to slag off the king's son and daughter-in-law in this way, to speak about them in such a disgusting and vitriolic fashion, to pick over their every pronouncement and step as if it is some sort of affront to British values. And the reason I'm coming to this story today is because I cannot get my head around how disgusting these people are. I'm not going to mince my words. I think you are truly disgusting. On the occasion of someone's grandmother's funeral, and I'm using the word funeral to describe the events of the whole week, okay, not just the coming events of Monday. Or we could say death. On the occasion of someone's... Let's run through the facts, shall we? Right? Let's just get this absolutely right. We are talking about someone who has lost his grandmother at a time when divisions in the family are still raw. So the grief, the loss, the bereavement is exacerbated by the knowledge that the peace that had once reigned in that family has been diluted, has been diverted. So that's point number one. He's lost his grandmother, right? And he's been living abroad, so he wouldn't have had as many conversations with her as he might like to have had. Number two, when he was 11, he was compelled by, quotes, protocol, to walk a child, a baby, to walk behind his dead mother's coffin. A mother who was killed, he believes, rightly or wrongly, at least in part, by the uncontrollable, the insatiable attentions of journalists, British and foreign journalists, who pursued her into a tunnel where the car crashed. Now, the car was being driven by someone who was drunk, and there are obviously questions to be asked about both that and the fact that seatbelts weren't being worn. It's not a simplistic conclusion to arrive at. But if your mum died, how would you feel if I came along and told you that your opinions about your mum's death were worthless or wrong or mistaken? Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, look, I know it was your mum, mate, but come here. You know, I've got a TV show. Let me tell you what... It's just gross. It's not funny. It's not fair. It's not journalism. It's disgusting. It's vicious and it's vitriolic. So that's point number two. Royal funerals for him must be absolutely unbearable, because that 11-year-old boy is very close to the surface in a week like this. That traumatized and, in my view, appallingly treated 11-year-old boy, wheeled out to walk behind that coffin, largely because the PR disaster of the royal family's response to the passing of Diana, Princess of Wales, needed to be assuaged. And what better way to assuage it by having her heartbroken boys walking behind the coffin at an age when they wouldn't be allowed into most films on release in this country. at an age when he'd be barely into secondary school in this country, before he'd sat a public exam, before he was considered old enough to, never mind drive a car, he wouldn't be old enough to, you can insert your own example here of just how youthful he was. So that's point number 2, the trauma of attending royal funeral or funereal events. Unbelievable. Number 3, because I don't think this would matter particularly to him, it's his birthday today. And number 4, he is the son of the king that these people claim to revere or respect. And do you know what they did wrong yesterday? Do you know what these vampires and ghouls are complaining about? This boy, this man, who had to walk behind his mother's funeral at the last event, not the last event, because he lost his great-grandmother as well, didn't he? But the event that he will be most reminded of this week would have been the most traumatic and heartbreaking event of his life. Do you know what they're complaining about? I bet you can't even guess. If you're not across this story already, I bet you can't even imagine what these vicious, vile individuals are complaining about today. But they're definitely not racist. Definitely not racist. Oh, no. No. We'd be this disgusting about anybody if they held hands on their way out of church. That's patriotism for you, according to Meghan Markle's critics. That's reverence for royalty for you, according to Meghan Markle's critics. That's commitment to the monarchy for you, according to Meghan Markle's critics. A man who has suffered the unimaginable pain of being compelled to walk behind his mother's coffin in the eyes of the entire world, held his wife's hand as they came out of a ceremony that would have brought back memory after memory after memory of the worst day of his life, or the second worst day of his life after discovering that he'd lost his mum. Now flip it, right? And look at it from her point of view. A woman who has been exposed to more abuse from the British media than anybody else I can think of. And I am not exaggerating when I say to you, I would include child killers in that analysis. In terms of paragraphs dedicated and pages counted, vicious, vile criminals have received less abuse and less criticism from the British media than the daughter-in-law of the new king. And she's back in the spotlight, back in the crucible where she knows every single sniff and comma will be attacked as if it were an affront to the entire nation. A woman whose wedding bouquet was described as potentially poisoning her bridesmaids because it contained identical flowers to the bouquet carried by her sister-in-law, the wife of Prince William. And guess what happened when she had the cameras pointed at her? Guess what happened when the eyes of the British media and elements, disgusting, shameful elements of the British public that treat her in the most unimaginably horrible way? Guess what happened when she found herself back in that spotlight once again? She took her husband's hand. And I will never know where these people get off unless you tell me. And that's your challenge between now and 12 o'clock. What do you think explains the... I almost hesitate to use the thought process phrase. I don't think it's a thought process. What do you think explains the behaviour of people who today have taken it upon themselves to be vile and obnoxious and disgusting about a husband and wife holding hands? What is it that's going on there? 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. That's all I want from you. But just explain it to me. However unpleasant your analysis may be, however unwelcome your explanation may be, these people are queuing up to attack two people. As far as crikey, have they put some foots wrong? I'm sure they have. Some ill-advised adventures in public life, probably. I don't follow things as closely in those circles as I follow other things. But my goodness me, I kid you not. Think of the most prominent critic of Meghan Markle in this country, and then count the criticisms or the condemnations that they have uttered with regard to, and you can pick whichever one you want, whether they're in a newspaper or on the telly or just on social media, and then try and explain to me why they reserve more vitriol and viciousness for her than they do for terrorists. It's incredible. Why do the newspapers do it? But to focus, to go in like a laser today, what possesses people to publicly complain about a couple holding hands? A couple who have been through all of the things that I have just described to you. And the couple whose gravest offence, as far as I can tell, is apparently being so happy. Because there is no greater revenge than happiness.